Have you ever wondered if the routine health checkups you re-told are essential could actually be doing more harm than good? What if I told you that some of the most common tests for seniors, especially those over 70, might be pushing you closer to unnecessary surgeries, debilitating side effects, or even a cancer diagnosis? In this video, we're going to uncover the hidden truth behind 5 health checkups you should seriously question after the age of 70. Recent studies are revealing a shocking reality. Up to 37% of medical tests administered to seniors lead to a cascade of unnecessary treatments, dangerous complications, and side effects that can last a lifetime. What's even more alarming is that a staggering 99% of people over 70 are completely unaware they are being over-tested. Modern medicine is a powerful tool, but it's far from perfect. It's time to shift our focus back to what truly matters: staying active, eating well, and sleeping deeply. We need to empower ourselves to question medical procedures, always asking a simple but vital question: do the potential rewards of this test truly outweigh the risks? Let's start with a test that sends a shiver of fear down the spine of many seniors: the bone density scan, also known as a DEXA scan. Imagine this scenario. You're feeling perfectly healthy, active, and enjoying your golden years. You go for your annual checkup and your doctor recommends a routine bone density scan. A few days later, you get a call with the results, and the words osteopenia or osteoporosis are mentioned. Suddenly, a cloud of anxiety hangs over you. You start to see every staircase as a potential hazard, every slip as a guaranteed fracture. This is the reality for countless seniors, where a single test instills more fear than it provides any real benefit. The fundamental problem with routine DEXA scans for people past 70 is that they often pathologize a natural process. As we age, our bones naturally lose some density. It's a normal part of the aging journey, much like getting wrinkles or gray hair. A DEXA scan will almost certainly show this lower density, but that doesn't automatically mean your bones are fragile or that you are in imminent danger of a fracture. Yet, this result often becomes the trigger for an aggressive and potentially harmful medical intervention. This is where the real risk begins. Following a diagnosis of low bone density, many seniors are strongly encouraged to start medications like bisphosphonates. These drugs are designed to halt bone loss and supposedly strengthen your skeleton. However, they come with a frightening list of potential side effects, including severe esophageal irritation, an increased risk of unusual thigh bone fractures, and, most disturbingly, osteonecrosis of the jaw, a rare but horrific condition where the jawbone literally begins to die. The treatment meant to prevent a fracture could end up causing a far more devastating health crisis. The evidence questioning this approach is compelling. A landmark study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed individuals over 70 with mild bone loss. The findings were stunning. After 5 years of taking bisphosphonates, their risk of fracture was reduced by a minuscule 0.3%. Think about that. For every 1,000 people taking these powerful drugs for 5 years, only 3 fractures were prevented. Meanwhile, every single one of those individuals was exposed to the risk of serious side effects. The risk-reward balance simply doesn't add up. Have you ever wondered if some of the health tests recommended as we get older are actually doing more harm than good? What if the very procedures designed to protect us are leading down a path of unnecessary fear, invasive treatments, and real harm? Let's start with a story. Imagine Sarah, a vibrant 74-year-old who started misplacing her keys more often. Concerned about dementia, her doctor immediately ordered a brain MRI. The scan came back showing what the report called age-related white matter changes. A perfectly normal finding for someone her age, but the term sounded terrifying. This led to a cascade of anxiety, more specialist visits, and even a suggestion for a spinal tap to rule out other conditions. Sarah spent months consumed by worry, all for something that was a normal part of aging. This is a scenario that plays out all too often. When seniors experience mild forgetfulness, the go-to response is often a brain MRI. The fear of Alzheimer's is so powerful that doctors and patients alike rush to get a picture of the brain. However, these scans rarely provide the clear answers people are looking for. Instead, they typically show things like slight brain shrinkage or those white matter spots, which are common and usually harmless in older adults. The real danger isn't the scan itself, but the chain reaction it can trigger. A 2021 study in Neurology Today looked at over 3,000 MRIs for seniors with mild cognitive complaints. It found that while 86% of the scans showed some abnormality, only a tiny 3% of those findings pointed to a treatable condition. Yet, based on these vague results, a staggering 12% of patients in one review were sent for invasive procedures like spinal taps or even biopsies, all stemming from a scan that showed normal aging. So, what's a safer first step? Unless there are red flag symptoms like sudden confusion, seizures, or a rapid loss of function, a simple cognitive screening test is a far better starting point. This is a paper-based exam that effectively evaluates memory and attention without the fear and potential for a cascade of unnecessary procedures. Now let's talk about the heart. Consider John, a 72-year-old who mentioned feeling a bit more tired than usual during his checkup. Despite having no other symptoms, his doctor suggested a cardiac stress test to be safe. The test came back with a positive result, suggesting blocked arteries. John was then rushed into an angiogram and ended up with 2 stents placed in his heart. The problem? He never had significant blockages to begin with. The stress test was a false positive, and now he was on blood thinners, dealing with the risks of a procedure he never needed. Cardiac stress tests are frequently ordered for seniors who complain of vague symptoms like mild fatigue or occasional chest tightness. But for people over 70 without clear signs of heart disease, these tests can be notoriously unreliable. In fact, the false positive rate for stress tests in this age group can be as high as 40%. This means nearly half the time, the test incorrectly signals a problem, launching patients into a world of follow-up tests, anxiety, and potentially dangerous interventions. The evidence is stark. A 2017 study in JAMA Cardiology revealed a shocking statistic. Over half of all stents placed after a stress test referral were in patients who had no major symptoms or real blockages. These procedures offered no improvement in survival or quality of life. Instead, they exposed patients to serious complications, including bleeding, kidney damage from contrast dyes, and the lifelong need for medication. For seniors not experiencing classic heart attack symptoms, like chest pain that gets worse with activity or severe shortness of breath, there are much safer alternatives. A simple resting EKG or a coronary calcium scan can provide valuable information without the high risk of a false alarm. These tests, the brain MRI for mild forgetfulness and the cardiac stress test for vague fatigue, are often presented as routine precautions. But as we've seen, they can open a Pandora's box of over-testing and over-treatment, turning normal signs of aging into a medical crisis. It forces us to ask a critical question. In our quest for answers, are we sometimes creating problems that were never there to begin with? And if these common tests are so risky, what other routine checkups might be causing more harm than help for those over 70? Did you know that a routine health checkup, one often praised for saving lives, could actually become more harmful than helpful as you get older? I remember a conversation with my uncle, David, a vibrant man who had just celebrated his 76th birthday. He was incredibly proud of his health, always on top of his appointments. He called me one afternoon, sounding a bit frail. He had just finished the prep for his routine colonoscopy, a screening he'd had every 10 years like clockwork. The doctor had recommended another one, just to be safe. But this time was different. The powerful laxatives had left him severely dehydrated and dizzy, leading to a fall in his bathroom. He ended up with a bruised hip and a trip to the ER, not for cancer, but for the side effects of preparing for a test. His experience wasn't just a fluke. It highlighted a growing concern among geriatric specialists about certain routine procedures for older adults. This brings us to our second point, the colonoscopy. While it's a gold standard screening tool for many, its value and safety profile change significantly as we age. For individuals over 70 and especially those over 75, a routine colonoscopy is often not the wisest choice and is rarely recommended for screening purposes if you do and have any specific symptoms like unexplained weight loss or blood in your stool. The reason for this shift is the escalating risk that comes with age. The preparation process itself is a major hurdle. The strong laxatives required to clean out the colon can easily lead to severe dehydration, electrolyte imbalances, and even kidney problems in older adults. This dehydration also increases the risk of dizziness and falls, just like what happened to my uncle. Then there's the procedure itself. The sedation necessary for a colonoscopy poses a greater risk to the aging brain, potentially causing confusion or cognitive decline. Furthermore, the physical act of navigating the colon with a scope carries a higher chance of complications like internal bleeding, perforation or tearing of the colon wall, and even stress-induced heart rhythm disturbances. When you weigh these dangers against the potential rewards, the balance tips dramatically. A revealing 2019 study that looked at Medicare patients aged 70 and older painted a stark picture of this risk-to-benefit ratio. It found that for every 1,000 colonoscopies performed on patients over the age of 75, only about 2 lives were saved from colon cancer. In stark contrast, over 20 individuals from that same group suffered serious complications directly from the procedure. That's a staggering 10-to-1 ratio, where the risk of harm is 10 times greater than the chance of a life-saving benefit. For a screening test meant to prevent a problem, these numbers suggest it may be creating more problems than it solves in this age group. So, what's the alternative? Fortunately, there are safer, less invasive ways to screen for colon cancer. Based on this evidence, the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force now officially recommends that most people stop routine colon cancer screening at age 75. Instead of an invasive scope, they endorse stool-based tests, such as the fecal immunochemical test, or FIT test. This simple test can be done in the privacy of your own home, requires no special diet, no harsh prep, and no sedation. It works by detecting tiny amounts of blood in the stool, which can be an early sign of cancer. While it may not be as sensitive as a colonoscopy for detecting polyps, it is highly effective at catching most cancers and concerning issues, allowing for further investigation only when truly necessary. It provides a much safer first line of defense without exposing you to the immediate and significant risks of an unnecessary procedure. It's crucial to understand that we're not saying to ignore your health, but to be smarter and more selective about it. The one-size-fits-all approach to medicine simply doesn't work, especially as our bodies change with age. But this isn't the only common medical test that carries hidden risks for seniors. There's another widely used heart screening that could actually be putting your long-term health in jeopardy. Have you ever heard those ads for full-body scans and thought, maybe I should get one just to be safe? It seems like a smart, proactive way to take charge of your health, right? A way to catch anything serious before it becomes a real problem. I want to tell you about a man named George, a retired school teacher who just turned 72. George was the picture of health. He walked his dog every morning, enjoyed gardening, and had no symptoms or complaints whatsoever. But one day, he saw an advertisement for a private clinic offering a preventive full-body CT scan. The ad promised peace of mind, a complete picture of his health, and the ability to detect diseases like cancer early. Worried about the what-ifs that come with getting older, he booked an appointment, paying a hefty sum out of pocket. A week later, the results came in. The scan didn't find cancer, but it did find a few small, incidental things, a tiny nodule on his lung and a small cyst on his kidney. The report said they were indeterminate but likely benign. For George, those words were terrifying. Indeterminate sounded like a ticking time bomb. The peace of mind he had paid for was instantly replaced by overwhelming anxiety. His doctor, following standard procedure for such findings, ordered a series of follow-up tests. First came more specialized scans, which meant more radiation exposure and more waiting. When those were inconclusive, the next step was a biopsy for the lung nodule. The procedure was invasive and came with its own risks, including a collapsed lung. After weeks of sleepless nights and immense stress, the biopsy results finally came back. The nodule was just a harmless scar from an old, forgotten infection. The kidney cyst was also deemed benign and required no action. George was physically fine, but the emotional and financial toll was enormous. He had endured risky procedures and crippling anxiety, all for a problem that never actually existed. George's story perfectly illustrates the hidden dangers of one of the most overmarketed and potentially harmful health trends for seniors: the annual full-body CT scan. While it sounds like a fantastic preventive tool, the reality is far more complex and risky. There is currently zero evidence from major medical organizations that performing these scans on healthy individuals without any symptoms actually saves lives. In fact, they often cause more harm than good. The first major concern is the significant radiation exposure. A single full-body CT scan delivers a dose of 10 to 20 millisieverts of radiation. To put that into perspective, that's the equivalent of receiving about 500 chest X-rays all at once. This isn't a trivial amount. Ionizing radiation is a known carcinogen, and repeated exposure adds up over a lifetime. A startling 2023. Modeling study even suggested that the dramatic increase in CT scans over the years might be responsible for as much as 5% of all cancers in the United States. This puts routine, unnecessary scans in the same cancer risk category as well-known factors like alcohol consumption. The very test marketed to prevent cancer could, ironically, increase your risk of developing it down the line. Even more common than the risk of radiation-induced cancer is the risk of a cascade of unnecessary interventions. Just like what happened to George. As we age, our bodies naturally develop harmless quirks, small calcifications, benign cysts, or old scar tissue. These are normal parts of the aging process. A high-resolution CT scan is guaranteed to find some of these incidentalomas. While most are completely harmless, they trigger a chain reaction of panic, further testing, and invasive procedures. This journey, often called a medical wild goose chase, leads to tremendous stress exposure to more radiation from follow-up scans, and the potential for complications from biopsies or even surgeries for conditions that were never a threat in the first place. Because of these substantial risks and the lack of proven benefits, leading medical authorities, including the American College of Radiology, strongly advise against using full-body CT scans for general screening in adults who don't have any symptoms. Their recommendation is clear: these scans should never be a just-in-case tool. Targeted imaging is incredibly valuable and life-saving, but only when it is used to investigate specific symptoms or follow up on known conditions under a doctor's guidance. The promise of peace of mind from these elective scans often delivers the exact opposite, at a significant cost to your health and your wallet. Navigating healthcare in our later years can be confusing, but being informed is your best defense. It's about choosing wisely and avoiding tests that offer more risk than reward. If you found this information helpful, please give this video a like and share it with friends or family who might benefit. What are some other health topics you're curious about? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips on staying healthy and living well.